Hi, I'm David from EAC. I'm here with Rosy Sullivan from Australian College Professionals. Welcome, Rosy.
Thank you, David. It's really lovely to be here with you.
Today we're talking about training. I've seen a lot of questions on social media and received calls from people wanting to get in the industry lately. Now we are in a transition phase with the introduction of the industry reforms, which will see certificate holders have to transition through to a licence in a period of 4 years. We've already discussed in the previous videos how people can prepare for that. Say if someone wants to get in the industry but they don't quite have the money to do the necessary training, can you talk about some of the options that are available?
Yeah, there's actually quite a lot of options, and there's nothing more I like doing than talking about training. So thank you for the opportunity. Let's look at starting from scratch. If somebody is actually unemployed, they're looking at getting out of that state of unemployment, and they're associated with Centrelink and have a job service provider, there is actually Centrelink funding, and we're a Centrelink approved provider. So all of our training is approved, and all they have to do is give our provider number when they walk in, and Centrelink will often pay that money, or their job service provider will pay for them to get their certificate of registration. So that's a start. The alternative is if they're not associated with that, and they're just looking for it, they're a school leaver, or they just want to change a career, or they need to change a career because of their headspace says they need something new and they feel they have the right skills for property, then there's a couple of different ways here. Obviously they can do fee for service, they can get the qualifications. There is government funding around those. So the first one is traineeships. And a lot of people think you've got to be young to get a traineeship, 16 to 65. And I don't think they've ever actually said somebody over 65 can't get it, because we'd look at age discrimination at that point.
I'm sure they would.
I'm sure they would. So it's not just about being young. When everybody thinks apprenticeships and traineeships, they think young. Not the case. So get rid of that myth. And it's about when people are starting a new career. So the most available amount of funding is when somebody is brand new to a business. So for a traineeship, the best eligibility for the greatest amount of funding comes from somebody who's been working in a business less than 3 months full-time or less than 6 months part-time. So if they meet that criteria, also if they haven't done any formal qualifications previously, they might have done courses here and there, but if they're not formal qualifications and in a certain time period and certain industries, everything comes down to what the government will tick as eligibility. But that goes through their calculator and it spits out whether they're eligible or not, whether it's what their fee will be based on what they've done before. The maximum fee any student will pay for a full certificate for in property services real estate, which is the licence requirement, is $1,000. So in comparison with what somebody would pay fee for service to do the whole course, they're saving $2,500. So, and obviously that's over a period of time. So, and if they're fully eligible here, the employer will end up with $4,000.
I was going to ask about that, the benefit to the employer.
Yeah, so that's for obviously the employer taking on somebody brand new to an industry or brand new to their office. There's some training and some supervision to be done. So that's the government under their Skilling Australia program saying that, okay, we want more skilled workers in Australia. Yay.
And we need more skilled agents.
Indeed. And it's about that with the reforms, with the upskilling to the licence. If somebody already has a certificate and they're moving from one office to another office and they're new to that office, then it's not about they're new to the industry for a traineeship, it's new to the place of employment.
Okay.
So if they've been there for less than 3 months in their new place of employment, there's part of their eligibility coming. And that maximum fee of $1,000, if they've already got a certificate of registration, the fee comes down because obviously the units they've done for their certificate of registration are recognised.
I think it's an important point of the place of business versus the industry.
Exactly. It is and lots of people think it's my first 3 months in the industry. No, if they've moved offices, moved employment, even sometimes if they're moving if an agency has one company or corporate entity for their property management business and a totally separate corporate entity, so different corporation licence, different proprietary limited company, different ABN is what they come down to for their sales, and they're moving from property management to sales or vice versa, then it's a new entity. So there's a, you know,
That's a
few
good
little
tip.
ways of getting through there. But obviously, everybody is different because they're bringing something different to the table. So that's one style, and they've got a couple of years to, and there's obviously extensions available to get that. So that will fall within that 4-year requirement for people to move from a certificate to, well, the requirement that's coming, to move from a certificate to a licence within our industry. In terms of other available government funding, there are other funding buckets that we have access to through Australian College of Professionals, and that's what they call targeted funding through the Smart and Skilled program. And that means that that's for people who've been around for that longer than 3 months. So they may have been in one agency for 10 years. So fingers crossed, they've got plenty of good experience and they've got some real skills. So we can assess against that. We can assess against what they've got. It's a little bit more money. The $1,000 is for traineeships, their maximum fee. There are maximum fees on this existing worker. So it's, people think they're not entitled to anything if they've been around for a while. Well, they are. We've got this other lot of funding. It's the maximum fee, I think it's $1,980. I could be corrected. It could be $1,930. Let's, you know,
Around that
it's
amount.
around that figure. It's just under $2 if they haven't got any other qualifications, and every bit of experience that they have. So every point where we grant them recognition of prior learning based on the evidence that they give us and the experience and what their licensee in charge is prepared to confirm about their skills and their experience, the fee comes down. So, you know, the average fee that we look at people coming through that program, it's around about that $1,200 to $1,500. So again, less than half of what you would pay as a full fee-for-service client. So there are lots of ways of looking at government funding, and that's available for real estate and strata.
Okay.
So unfortunately for the stockies, it's not seen as a government priority. But for real estate and strata, which are obviously the larger industries, that funding is there on the traineeships, on the Centrelink, and on this existing worker targeted funding,
Okay.
is what they call it. So there are lots of ways, but the easiest way to work out what they're eligible for is hop onto our website, and obviously they can access that via EAC website or straight to us. And on the very front page, there's an eligibility survey. Click on that, fill it in. It comes straight through to our Manager of Qualifications, who's Megan, and she puts it through and she looks at whether you're eligible for a traineeship, for existing funding through targeted, or whether a fee for service based on your experience. Whatever is the cheapest option is what we're going to put you into.
Okay.
So, yeah, lots. And again, just because your friend has got one particular funding from one bucket, you may be eligible for a different bucket because every person's different.
Okay.
So,
Now, obviously, there's lots of RTOs, or registered training organisations, out there doing training. You know, from an EAC perspective, we believe agents need to be better trained. I myself have been critical of the standard of some of that training in the past. Are all RTOs able to offer some of these options that you're talking about?
look, some are. There are a number of RTOs in our industry that can offer the traineeships. Most of them are not Centrelink approved, because that's a Commonwealth accreditation that we've got separately. And I think there's only maybe one or two others that can actually look at the experienced agents, so the targeted funding.
Okay.
And we've actually got, and that comes, the traineeships, we can put as many people as we like. The targeted funding comes with a specific amount of money that can be spent towards that. We've actually got the largest allocation, not just in the property industry, but of all industries, of any RTO in New South Wales. So, yeah, there's a limited bucket, but it's a pretty big one that we've got at the moment. So, so that's a really good option to, you know, I think we should be taking advantage of that. We need to skill up our industry. We need to do it properly. And I was actually saying to you before we went on camera that, you know, I actually have three coaches or mentors in my life, and one of them, my main business coach, he is always on about mediocrity, and it's his thing this week actually, and we need to rise above mediocrity. And I think if we want to do that, and we want to do that for our industry and keep our property industry, well, improve the image of the property industry for our consumers, then we as agents need to be well skilled, know what they're talking about, and provide that really good service level, which is about talking to your clients of what's important for them.
And to me, I mean, I do lots of presentations, and I think the key thing for me now is that experience. Agents have to improve on the consumer experience, and if they don't, then I think they're going to be in trouble.
We all want a good experience when we're a consumer. So as a service provider, we should be making sure that what we're providing is a really good experience. And yeah, and part of that is intrinsic, and there's lots of, and part of it is going off to professional development at a service provision level. And then there's the other part of that, which is knowing what you're talking about. And that's your legislation, your compliance, and the really important aspects of actually being an agent. And I think that's what you get through attending, well, certainly by attending training with us, we have a huge focus on underpinning it with legislation, case law, and reality, and having some fun.
Thanks, Rosie.
Absolute pleasure.
So if you need some training, you can go to Australian College Professionals website, and Australian College Professional EAC's preferred trainer.
If they're an EAC member, they get a discount. So an even better option there for our EAC members.
And I think for me the overriding thing is quality training.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Rosie.
Thanks, David.